Greetings everyone, I'm Detective STARBORN, and I'm glad to see you on my YouTube channel. Please be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on new and interesting videos. Thank you, and enjoy watching. A young mother finished her evening shift and was about to head home, but immediately after leaving work, she disappeared under extremely strange circumstances. From the first hours of the investigation, this case sparked a wave of outrage. However, what the investigators ultimately uncovered shocked the entire country, without exaggeration, as no one could imagine that something like this could happen in real life. Summer Cook was born on December 31st, 1985, in a small American town called Logan, Ohio. She grew up in a large family, and her parents were deeply religious people. From early childhood, Summer regularly attended the local church and spent quite a lot of time there. In addition, the girl had many friends. She was very sociable and easily found common ground with everyone. During her school years, she took ballet and jazz classes and also participated in theatrical productions. When Summer was in high school, she met a guy named William. They lived on the same street and attended the local church. The couple started dating, and sometime later, they decided to get married. Over the next few years, they had 3 children, 2 daughters, and a son. The family lived next door to William's parents, who constantly helped them look after the children. His father was a priest and also ran a small construction business, and at some point they decided to move to Florida, where the man got a construction contract. However, after just a few years, they decided to move back to Logan. In 2010, Summer decided to divorce her husband and moved in with her parents along with the children. Considering that they lived on the same street, the father and his relatives continued to see them regularly. In the spring of 2011, when the woman was 25, she devoted almost all her time to caring for the children, who were 5, 3, and 2 years old at the time. Because of this, she did not have the opportunity to get a full-time job, so Summer worked part-time as a cleaner at a local bank near her home. She also planned to enroll in college to get an education and find a higher-paying job in the future. In addition, she started dating a man named Adam. On the evening of March 22nd, the woman, as usual, went to her shift at the bank and was supposed to finish around 11:20. Before going home, she sent a few messages to her boyfriend but suddenly stopped responding to him in the middle of the conversation. At first, Adam thought she was just busy or staying late at work. A little later, he tried to call her, but Summer didn't answer. Worried, the man decided to walk to the bank and check if she was okay. First of all, he made sure that her car, which the woman used to get to work, was still in the parking lot. Considering that Summer should have finished her shift almost half an hour ago, Adam became even more worried. He approached the back door of the bank, through which the woman should have exited, and soon noticed her iPod, car keys, and phone battery on the ground next to the dumpster. It all looked extremely suspicious, so the man decided to call her parents. They confirmed that Summer still hadn't returned home and came to the bank. After making sure that the items found on the ground did indeed belong to her, they decided to immediately call the police. To Summer's parents' surprise, they learned that just half an hour before their call, the police had received several more reports. 2 women went out for an evening run, the route of which passed by that very bank. Running near the building, they saw 2 people in black ski masks grabbing a woman and pushing her into a car. She tried to resist, but to no avail. At the same time, another witness was nearby, and he tried to intervene, but when he approached, a woman got out of the car and sprayed him with pepper spray. Then she got back behind the wheel and drove away with the kidnappers and their victim. The 2 women immediately ran to the police station, which was just a few hundred meters away. They told what they had seen, but instead of a prompt response from the police, they faced a rather unexpected behavior. The officers were skeptical of their story, thinking the women had made it all up. The police were in no hurry to take any action, and when the witnesses asked why they weren't going to the bank, they replied that most of the officers were currently busy checking drivers on the roads. In the end, the women went to the house of one of them, took a car, and returned to the bank about 20 minutes later. To their surprise, they found that there were still no police officers at the scene and continued to wait. The officers arrived there about an hour later, but even then, they were in no hurry to start the investigation. When the husband of one of the women started to get furious and demanded that they finally begin searching for the kidnapped victim, the police began to behave quite aggressively towards him. Only after that did they finally start the investigation and established that the kidnapped woman was most likely Summer. The police also received a description from the witnesses of a white car in which the kidnappers had fled and put out an all-points bulletin for it. The woman's parents told investigators that there were quite serious problems in their relationship with the ex-husband, which continued even after the divorce. Summer spoke about how William's behavior began to change rapidly after the wedding. He considered himself a deeply religious person, so he demanded that his wife obey him in everything. The man dictated to her with whom to communicate and spend time. He insisted that upon returning from work, a set table should already be waiting for him, and the house should be perfectly clean, and he even forbade her to go to bed without his permission. In addition, the man began to think about getting himself another wife. Despite the fact that it was prohibited by law, William considered such desires permissible from a religious point of view and openly told Summer about his plans. He even found special websites with profiles of women who were ready to enter into such a marriage and chose a second wife for himself. At the same time, William said that Summer should bear him 9 more children, in addition to the existing 3. In addition to all this, the man became increasingly aggressive. He began to forbid her from leaving the house without an escort, took away her keys and phone, and eventually Summer decided to file for divorce. However, William, as well as his parents, were not thrilled with this decision. The man tried to get full custody of the children and threatened his ex-wife with violence if she took them away from him. He also flew into a rage when he found out that Summer had started dating another man. William knew Adam, and one day he saw a photo of the man with Summer and his children on his social media. In response, he again began to threaten the woman while simultaneously trying to get custody of the children through the court. But despite all his attempts, the threats of violence played against him, and the judge decided to leave full custody with the mother. William's parents also tried to discredit Adam by bombarding the police with false reports that he was allegedly mistreating the children. Investigators were unable to confirm any of these complaints, but the parents did not give up and tried to get their grandchildren back. Digging deeper, the police found out something else. A year before that, William's father had opened his own church and founded a non-profit organization aimed at helping the homeless and those who had lost their homes. His idea was as follows. The man planned to build low-cost houses and settle these people there. In order to raise money for construction, he began selling lottery tickets and managed to collect several $100,000. However, since then, he has not built a single house, and none of the lottery ticket buyers have received their money back. Moreover, the man never explained where the impressive sum he had collected from ticket sales had gone. Around the same time, he was stripped of his priest's license, although the exact reason for this move was not disclosed. Just a few months before Summer's disappearance, the family also lost their home and was forcibly evicted from there. While they were still in the old house, Summer came there to collect the rest of her belongings. She asked Adam to come with her to help load everything into the car, and also asked the police to send an officer there, as the woman was wary of the reaction of her ex-husband's family. As it turned out, these concerns were not unfounded. William's father began to behave aggressively and demanded that Adam not approach their house. Despite the presence of a police officer, he threatened to shoot and beat the man, and when the officer intervened to calm him down, he tried to knock the officer to the ground. Because of this, the man was arrested and given a suspended sentence. In addition, investigators found out that William's parents behaved quite strangely. His mother could not have children after the birth of her son, which became a huge problem for her. As a result, she perceived her grandchildren as her own children and even said that if William and Summer died, she would take custody. Investigators also received Summer's personal diary from her parents, which contained quite a lot of information about the problems in their relationship with William. The woman described how her husband restricted her in everything and behaved more and more aggressively. She wrote that she felt like a hostage in her own home, unable to take a step without William's permission. All this put a lot of pressure on her, and it seemed to Summer that she was living in a terrible nightmare, not in reality. After studying all this information, the police decided to go to William and his parents, who lived in the same house with him. They also quickly found out that they had a car of the same model and color that the kidnapping witnesses had described. Investigators came to them the day after Summer's disappearance, but William stated that he and his parents were out of town that night. According to him, the family had traveled to Cleveland, about 3 hours from their city, to look at several houses. The man added that they had to spend the whole night there because their car broke down, and the man's parents confirmed this story. William also said that he had not seen his ex-wife for several days since he had dropped off the children with her. However, the police were in no hurry to take his word for it. They requested a warrant to search their house and car, and also began to look for any other leads that could contradict William's alibi. When the judge issued them a warrant, investigators found a car navigator in their house. After downloading the data, they saw that the navigator had been turned off at 5:30 in the evening on the day of Summer's disappearance and turned on only at 7:30 the next morning. It is noteworthy that the last location before shutting down was Logan, not Cleveland, where all three were supposedly supposed to be looking at houses. As for the next morning, the navigator showed how at 7:30 the family arrived at a car wash. After obtaining footage from the surveillance cameras, the police saw how all three thoroughly washed the car, including the interior. They also changed the tires. By the time the police had gathered all this information, 8 days had already passed. At the same time, they tried to find Summer in the city and its surroundings, questioned people, but all this did not bring any results. Having received confirmation that William and his parents had lied about their alibi, the police brought all three in for questioning. The ex-husband and his father stated that they had nothing to do with Summer's disappearance. Investigators focused on his mother. To their own surprise, the woman almost immediately stated that Summer was already dead and began to give confessional testimony. According to the mother, they were dissatisfied with the court's decision, according to which Summer was granted full custody of the children. They tried to get the woman to at least allow them to spend time with the children on weekends, but after all the threats from William and his aggressive behavior, Summer was simply afraid to leave the children with them for long. Then the family decided to intimidate her and force her to reconsider the custody terms. They planned to kidnap the woman, scare her, and get their way, after which they would let her go. However, everything happened completely differently than they had expected. After William and his father pushed her into the car using a stun gun, the ex-husband tied her hands with plastic ties. Then he took another one and placed it around the woman's neck. When all three realized that it was difficult for her to breathe, they wanted to remove the tie, but none of them had a knife. As a result, Summer died, and the criminals decided to get rid of her body. They drove to a neighboring town where William's parents attended church. Next to it was a large septic tank buried underground. The father thought it would be a great place where no one would find her body, so they dumped it there and left. Despite the fact that the woman insisted that they had no plans to kill Summer, her version turned out to be rather doubtful. Given that the ex-husband had repeatedly threatened her with violence, and his father behaved extremely aggressively towards everyone who limited his ability to see his grandchildren, investigators allowed that the murder could have been their original goal. The police went to that church and indeed found the woman's body there. Medical experts confirmed that the cause of death matched the testimony of William's mother, and all three were arrested on murder charges. For the victims' relatives, everything that was happening came as a big shock. In addition to the fact that Summer's 3 children lost their mother, The actions of the police caused not just serious outrage, but also questions. As we remember, they received a report of the kidnapping just a few minutes after it happened, but did not take any action for more than an hour. According to medical experts, Summer died about 45 minutes after the abduction, which means that the police theoretically had time to save her. They could have immediately sent out an all-points bulletin for the car based on the witnesses' statements. Given that it all happened in the evening in a tiny town, there were practically no other cars on the streets, so the investigators theoretically had the opportunity to stop William and his parents. Instead, they referred to the fact that most of their officers were busy with other matters. Even more outrageous was the fact that the police station was just a few hundred meters from the bank. Even on foot, it could be reached in a matter of minutes. But despite this, no one except the witnesses came to Summer's aid. Another unpleasant moment in this case was that William's mother received a plea deal for confessional testimony and revealing the location of the body. She also testified at the trial, repeating her confession, and ultimately received only 15 years in prison, and after a few years, she should be released. As for William and his father, both men received life sentences. Since then, Summer's children have been under the care of her parents. For the first 6 months after the murder, they simply did not know how to tell them that they would never see their mom and dad again. At the same time, the children constantly asked when they would see their mother, as well as their grandmother and grandfather. In the end, Summer's parents decided that they could not hide the truth forever and turned to a psychologist with whom they told them what had happened. At that time, they were afraid that the eldest son would find out about everything from his classmates, since their parents, like all the residents of Logan, knew this story perfectly well. Moreover, sometimes strangers would approach the children on the street and express their condolences. Summer's parents even thought about changing the children's last name, as they did not want them to be forever associated with this crime. At the moment, they have already grown up, and the family avoids publicity. As for William's mother, she is supposed to be released in 2028. It is not yet known whether she will be prohibited from approaching her grandchildren. However, knowing all the details of this story, she may well try to establish contact with them. Thank you for watching this video, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I look forward to your comments on this situation. That was Detective STARBORN. See you soon.